Are you ready to take your USB game capture to the level of Ultra? Are you looking for the very best in USB capture capabilities with high refresh, HDR pass-through, 4K capture, and in a small form factor? AVerMedia's new USB capture card can take you to the power of Ultra with the Live Gamer Ultra.
Maybe. If you have to have a USB capture card or are just capturing game consoles, the Live Gamer Ultra might be the best you can go with as the time of release for USB capture card, but it has some quirks, some driver issues, and some nuances that have actually caused a couple reviews I have watched to actually contain factual misinformation. So let's discuss after a word from our sponsor.
Tired of hiding behind giant microphones during your live streams or videos? Say hello to the Mod Mic and the XLR Power Converter. This flexible, high-quality microphone attaches to your headphones and gives you the freedom you deserve. The XLR Power Converter makes it work with your existing professional audio setup for even more flexibility. Check it out with the link in the video description.
I've recently reviewed two of AVerMedia's three new 4K adjacent capture cards, the Live Gamer 4K and the Live Gamer Extreme 2. This one, the Live Gamer Ultra, sits between the two at around $250 to $260. For this small amount cheaper than the Live Gamer 4K, I definitely only recommend it if you specifically need a USB capture card or something with UVC drivers. Otherwise, it just makes more sense to pay the $40 to $50 more for the more capable and likely more stable over time Live Gamer 4K. That being said, let's jump into the review after some disclosures. As usual, AVerMedia sent this product free for review, but has not purchased any advertising on the channel, is not paying for this review, and won't see it before it is posted. The Live Gamer Ultra is small. Smaller than a smartphone, it's a small USB 3.1 Gen 1 capture device. It has a plastic casing with rubber feet, and inside you can see some metal grilling and a fan. The fan definitely kicks up and has a slight high-pitched hum to it, but it's quiet. Quieter than my PC, and I can't hear it under my desk at all. I have to bring it pretty close to me in order to hear it. On one end, you have the USB 3.1 Gen 1 Type-C connector, which we will address in a moment. And on the other end, there is HDMI 2.0 input and output for lag-free pass-through. This capture card can pass through 4K 60fps signals in HDR or SDR, 1440p 144Hz or 1080p 240Hz signals, much like the Live Gamer 4K, and some ultra-wide modes. But it can only capture 4K 30fps SDR, 1080p up to 120fps and 1440p up to 60fps, and HDR can only be captured in 1080p 60fps. Ultra-wide works, but due to the weird scaler in this capture card, it might get processed as 4K 30fps mode or a 1080p 60fps mode, such as the case with 3440 by 1440. Due to some weird limitation of the hardware of this card, some high refresh rate and resolution modes, such as 1080p 240fps, won't show up without plugging in a monitor capable of such modes into the HDMI output of the device. Then it will detect the EDID of the monitor and enable that mode. Weird that the 4K can handle this fine, but the Ultra cannot. This may be a problem for those of you who are using display cloning instead of trying to run display pass-through using HDMI. However, you may be able to reach out to AVerMedia support and get an EDID manager download thing. There's also a weird scaler issue with this card for the 1440p mode. This may also just be driver related, as I'll discuss later, but frequently, more so on my first Ultra than my replacement, which we'll touch on, if I pass through a 1440p 144Hz signal, it will sometimes give a signal not supported for resizing error. This can happen in both OBS and RECentral. It was so pervasive that I initially thought that you just couldn't scale it at all, just 1440p had to be recorded in 1440p or software scaling, until like 2 weeks later when I was doing the laptop testing and suddenly scaling to 1080p and 720p worked in RECentral. It seems to work more often on my replacement unit, but I do still get the error sometimes, and I do think it's driver related. Originally, I blamed that internal scaler. Between maxing out at 4K 30 capture and 1440p not scaling, I was thinking maybe it was using last gen tech and the scaler just couldn't do it. But since it does work sometimes, I'm thinking it might be a driver issue, one of many. It could also still be the scaler, and sometimes it just doesn't enable the software scaling on RECentral or OBS. I don't know. For the most part, other than general driver quirks, this card had no problem capturing console gameplay at 4K 30, 1080p 60, and HDR at 1080p 60. And it still captures tone-mapped SDR from HDR sources like the Live Gamer 4K. If that's all you need it for, avoid Type-C ports and you should be good. This could also be used as a webcam replacer capture card for your 4K camera. It played well with my Panasonic G7, but at over twice the cost of the Elgato Camlink just to go from 1080p 60 to 4K 30, I'm not sure the cost is worth it. That's your call. The Live Gamer Ultra also supports UVC drivers, meaning it can work plug and play, theoretically, on any operating system and without manual driver install. That means it works with the Windows Camera app and other video chatting apps, and it actually works in USB Type-C ports with the C-to-C cable most of the time, and sometimes a 3.1 Gen 2 Type A port. But there's a caveat, it doesn't always work. When using the UVC only driver via a Type-C to C connection, it can only seem to process 46.67 FPS at 1440p. This issue was one of the major issues that had me swap units with AVerMedia and delay my review, but this still happens with my new unit. I didn't notice this at first and had ran everything through OBS and captured like an hour's worth of recordings to sort through, except when I looked at them and I noticed a lot of duplicate frames. Even got the TR drop frame rate analyzer to line up and show me it bouncing between 46 and 47 FPS. Very bizarre. My new unit won't even show up when it just kind of shows a black screen. It doesn't say no signal or no device, it just shows a black screen in my desktop's USB 3.1 Gen 2 Type A port. Instead of doing any of this on my laptop via its Thunderbolt 3 port, it simply flashes the green light to indicate that it's in USB 2.0 mode and just won't work. Cool. As mentioned, for these reasons, this capture card seems to have driver issues, present enough to cause me to request a replacement unit, as I thought my first Live Gamer Ultra was defective. The size mode not available for scaling error, the 46.67 limit, or FPS limit via Type-C connection, and a couple of other things. On my previous unit, the signal kept dropping out when using 15-foot HDMI 2.0 cables for 1440p 144Hz pass-through. But the 30-foot HDMI cables for my 4K 60 and HDR pass-through never had an issue. But after an hour's worth of capture or so, I kept having the issues with the 15-foot cables cutting out. This has not happened so far on my replacement unit, but it was very bizarre. Another big issue that I had was that randomly when I plug the device in, the light will blink green to indicate it's in USB 2.0 mode, and the computer doesn't detect the device at all. This is completely inconsistent and very difficult to replicate. It happens on all ports on my desktop and laptop. Quite frustrating. That was one of the big things that made me think that I just broke the USB Type-C port in my first unit that they sent me, and that's why I requested a new one. But it does it in the new one too. This also happens when connecting to the Thunderbolt 3 port on my laptop, so it's clearly somehow driver related with the UVC stuff. Since the Live Gamer Ultra has a UVC driver, in theory it does support running on Linux and Mac with programs like OBS Studio. Do keep in mind, however, that OBS on Linux at the time of producing this review does not support Intel QuickSync encoding. So if you're on a laptop with no discrete GPU, you might have a hard time because performance is going to be fun. There is of course no HDR support on Linux as well without the RECentral app running on it, which it won't do. Linux OBS can utilize NVIDIA NVENC encoding, however, so there's that at least, and that should get you your performance if you have a modern card. But in my experience, running on Linux wasn't great. 1440p 144Hz got stuck in the resolution not supported for resizing screen or a no signal screen, and anything over 60Hz seemed to just say no signal. I did get 1080p 60Hz working and eventually 1440p 60Hz working by restarting OBS a few times to reactivate and deactivate the device, but it was not a smooth experience. And on a i7-6500U with no GPU, frame rates were not good at all in terms of capturing. Similar resolution and compatibility issues happened in a live environment of Ubuntu on my EVGA SC15 gaming laptop as well. I'd say the UVC drivers just aren't the most Linux friendly. The card is detected and sort of works on macOS testing my 2013 MacBook Pro running High Sierra, but again, resolution not supported for scaling, errors and a total freakout. Just in OBS, it just totally freaked out. In theory, these are supposed to be USB 3.0 ports, but I don't know if they are. I'm told they are, but Photo booth just showed a no signal or scaling errors. Yeah. However, it's the newest Mac product I own and that I have, so sorry. Speaking of laptops, it was heavily requested that I test this card with laptops, which opened the door for a lot more headache. I had 3 main test scenarios. Using my System 76 Lemur, a Linux-focused laptop with an Intel Core i7-6500U and QuickSync, but no discrete GPU, and Linux and Windows, Tux gods forgive me, and then my EVGA SC15 gaming laptop with an Intel Core i7-7700HQ and an NVIDIA GTX 1060 graphics card for NVENC support. The results are interesting. I genuinely don't know how people do broadcasts with laptops most of the time. I'm not gonna lie, the performance is kinda messy on some of them. First up, Windows on the 6500U. RECentral utilizes QuickSync video to get the best performance possible, of course, but it struggled to capture 1440p 60 or 1080p 60. Frame rates were very, very low. Switching things around, I did eventually manage to hold 60 FPS at 720p, however. This was the case with both QuickSync and Software H.264, with Software H.264 performing even worse. This also seemed to be unaffected by switching between HEVC and H.264 modes. I found this weird then because recording in OBS using QuickSync video, OBS seemed to have no trouble capturing 1080p 60 FPS. However, 1440p 60 did seem to prove a little too much. I also double checked that this applied with running both a 1440p 144Hz and a 4K 60Hz pass-through through the capture card, but it struggled evenly for the most part. Returning to the holy ground of Linux, performance was abysmal without any sort of hardware encoding or discrete graphics card to back it up. Plus, I had a lot of driver issues and scaling errors as mentioned in the previous section. Not the best recommendation here. I couldn't even measure performance in macOS due to the issues I had running it on my 2013 MacBook Pro in the previous section. Moving on to a laptop with an actual GPU, we have my EVGA SC15 with the GTX 1060 in there. It had no problem recording at a full 1440p 60 FPS in RECentral or in OBS with NVENC. Easy, that dedicated 10 series GPU makes a difference. However, some of the driver quirks are still going to be there, carried over from my desktop. As far as color mode support goes for the 4K 30 and 1080p 60, the Ultra supports full RGB, YUY2, NV12, and then P010 for the HDR in 1080p mode. 1440p mode gives you no choice and is locked to NV12 or YV12, with the latter only being selectable in OBS. Overall, the quality is what I expected from this capture card. Unless you're zooming in like 5 million times, especially for live streams, you're not going to notice the difference between most capture cards of the same line. It looks great, it's competent enough for most uses. Only allowing 30 FPS capture in 4K is a tad odd, but otherwise it's fine. You've been seeing samples, and I will have direct upload links in the video description. As covered better in my Live Gamer 4K review, RECentral is a great capture and streaming software that allows for direct capture, screenshotting, and live streaming with multiple sources and scenes, and even multi-streaming to different platforms at one time. I'll hopefully have a deeper dive on the software coming in its own video or series later in the year. Conclusion time! Overall, the Live Gamer Ultra from AVerMedia is quite the unique little capture card. It's capable of a lot, but it has quite a bit of quirks that make it difficult to give a blank recommendation. I'd say unless you specifically need a USB 3, not Type-C or Thunderbolt 3, capture card, spend the extra bucks on the PCIe Live Gamer 4K. It's more well-rounded in general. It seems like this one was just kind of rushed out there, and there's many issues that need to be addressed. That being said, it's probably the most competent USB capture card for the price, next to Epiphan's AVIO 4K for $500, which can't do 1440p 60, and Magewell's USB Capture HDMI 4K Plus for $450, which is a bit more stable than AVerMedia's model. If it seems to meet your needs and you're not in a hyper mission critical professional work scenario, it might be worth a shot. Also, it could be used as a more expensive 4K 30 cam link if you're willing to foot the bill for that upgrade in resolution. As always, product affiliate links will be in the description down below, along with my full reviews of every other capture card mentioned in this review. And down there, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more awesome tech content. I'm EposVox, here to make tech easier and more fun, and I'll see you next time.